Hello, very good morning all. Let's wait for a couple of minutes and then we'll start the today's demo class. It's 9:04. Hello, very good morning all. Thanks for showing the interest for this demo class. So yesterday we have seen what is software architecture. What are the types of architectures are present in the market and what is Spring Boot, right? So, and finally we saw difference between Spring and Spring Boot. Okay. So sake of new joinees for this demo class, I just want to go for a quick recap and following by I will be starting the today's topic. Let me share my screen. So yesterday we have seen the software architecture. In the software architecture, what is software architecture? First, it is a fundamental structure for a software system. When you are planning any of your house or any of the shop, if you want to build, first you will go to the engineer or a software architect. I mean, not a software, it's a civil architect. Then he will be planning the things, right? Where the rooms, bedroom should be there, where the restroom should be there, where this common room will be there. So everything will be planned before the construction. Why we are doing that? so that we can able to better utilize the spaces and then better amenity we can able to add on it. So that's the way we are planning upfront before starting the construction of the home or shop. The same fashion, if you want to build any of the software system, then you have to very well pre-plan it. So what is a tech stack? What is the components it should be involved as part of your flow? So how the backend services we are going to construct? So what is a DB we are going to choose? Okay, how we are going to communicate to the third-party systems? So all the things we have to plan upfront to understand how our software system will work. So this is called very important and crucial phase of the project. Okay, software architecture is a crucial part of the project. So we need to give ample amount of time to pre-plan it very well. That's why one should understand what is software architecture, how it will be important to evaluate the new strong fundamental or a resilience free, okay, the software system. That's why one should be aware of it. That's a fundamental structure of a software system. So it's kind of discipline of creating any structure of the system. And as I said you, the high level decisions like choosing the DB, choosing the technology stack. So how we are going to communicate to the third party systems, everything should be decided in this particular phase of the project. How these components will be interact with each other to achieve the desired functionality and performance. So how we are going to communicate from the one component to other component, that is we need to decide at this phase of the project. That's why software architecture is a crucial component of the project. And then we saw what are the types of architectures are present in the market. We saw monolithic architecture, microservices architecture, service oriented architecture, and event driven architecture. Right? So monolithic, you people already know what is that. So it is a single code base. All your components will be put it into a single code base, whether it is a Java, either it is .NET or Python, PHP, any of the technology. But ultimately, when it comes to monolithic architecture, all the code base will be put it into a single unit or single war file. Okay, whenever you're taking the war file or jar file into a app server, it will be a single jar or war file. Right? These are the software architecture present in the market. And then we saw what is monolithic architecture, right? So monolithic architecture is a traditional software development approach where the entire application is built as a single unit. This is a very critical word actually. So where entire application is built as a single unit. So what is the components? Here, user interface, there is a presentation layer, business layer, that is nothing but the business validations will be go here, and data access layer, DAO layer. Okay. So all these layers, MVC kind of layers, are tightly coupled and deployed together as a single unit. So it's a tight cohesion. Right? So the traditional desktop applications, web applications are still with the monolithic architecture. Still, there are a lot of applications like Netflix, Uber, right? And GitHub, all are running in the monolithic architecture only. There is nothing harm if you are running the application in monolithic architecture way. There is no harm. It has their own speciality to bring the feature into your project. And then we saw what is the pros and cons. Pros, the entire application is built as a single unit. It's easy for the development, performance, and deployment. So deployment perspective is very single jar. We need to deploy in the app server and we can able to bring up the application very quickly. Cons perspective, the flexibility and agility. It's a cons. The scalability issues, technology stack limitations, fault isolation. Why it is technology stack limitation? You can't adapt the another technology into your application. You can't adapt the another technology. For example, as I told you yesterday, if one of the functionality is working very well in the Python, you can't take that piece of code into your project. That's not possible. In the monolithic architecture code base, you have to stick with one of the technology stack only. Whether it is Java, then you have to go with the Java only. You can't bring the Python code into your code base. That's a technology stack limitation. And scalability perspective, as I already told you, right? So it is a vertical scaling. The monolithic architecture code will always support the vertical scaling only, so that you have to invest so much money on top of the existing server resources. Also, if the one of the module is unused module is present in your WAR file, then you can't exclude that particular functionality. You have to take that functionality and put it into the app server, right? So this is the another cons of the monolithic architecture. Then we have seen service oriented architecture. What is that service oriented architecture? Now this time, instead of a single unit of the monolithic code, we are identifying what are all the modules are present. Like modules meaning user services, right? Payment services, order services, notifications. Like that, you are identifying in the single unit of code base and then make it as a modular way. You are modularizing it. The single code base, now you are modularizing as a independent component now. So that's what this Ryan says. Software components are designed to be modular, reusable, and loosely coupled. Because earlier it was entire code base was a single unit. Now we are identifying the module and then making as a reusable and loosely coupled components, right? So now this time the components will be communicate with each other over a network, right? So network will be a mediator who will be transmitting the communication from one modular to another modular services, right? Okay, that is very good examples are there. E-commerce application. Okay, so let me go to this diagram so that people can easily understand. This is the monolithic architecture where the single code base is there. Now in SOA architecture, there will be modulars will be identified and deployed as a independent component. Look at here, this particular diagram where the service oriented is there. Here, the presentation layer will be communicating to the mediator layer, that is network layer or enterprise bus EBS, we can call it as, through which it will be invoking the respective module services. Maybe this services may be a payment service. This service may be a order services. Okay, these two can communicate with each other via the network bus layer, right? And then you can find the DB, database layer. That's about the service oriented architecture. Here we need to invest money on establishing these components. Enterprise bus is it's a bit costly to invest to set up the environment. Okay, so let's go back to the slide. It is a flexibility scalability perspective because you have modularized it already. So flexibility and scalability come into picture. Interoperability and maintenance. It's easy to maintain this particular components. And cons perspective, as I told you, it's a performance overhead because you have to communicate via networks. Because whenever you're communicating via network, there are chances of dropping the request, right? If the network is down, network hop is there, then there are chances of failures are happen in this network. The initial setup will be costly. right? It includes the service registry, message brokers. You have to fit the governance frameworks, right? This is the bit costliest operation when it comes to service oriented architecture. Then we have seen microservices architecture. Okay. So what is the microservices architecture? Where you will be breaking down the components into little smaller and loosely coupled services. You are establishing the services as a smaller and loosely coupled. What is services? Yesterday we have seen service is nothing but combination of business service layer and database access layer and exposed as a endpoint, that is called service. So it should do something for you. That's called service, right? It may be a payment service, it may be a order service or notification service. Service is nothing but the combination of business layer and database access layer and exposed as a endpoint to outside world. That is called services. Okay. So now when it comes to microservices architecture, we will be decomposing the entire application into smaller, loosely coupled services. If you go to this diagram, you can furthermore understand it will be loosely coupled, right? You are breaking down very granular way and then deploying as an independent component with each other, loosely coupled, right? This is the diagram. You can able to understand. Each and every microservices has their own database. Look at here. But in service-oriented architecture, these services will be sharing the database. Okay. But when it comes to microservice, each microservices has their own database. Okay. Then we have seen there are examples for this but modularity as microservices, login, order, inventory, and notifications. And communication will be happen with HTTP and REST or messaging systems. What is messaging systems? It will be like a queue messaging, right? Whenever if you want to communicate to other microservices, you can either go and call the HTTP or REST way, or else you can also drop a message into the message queues. So message queue will be a mediator between two microservices. This we are going to cover up in the later section of the classes. The Kafka Solace will be coming to picture. It will be taking the message and routing to the respective microservices. That we are going to elaborate. You will see that. So this architecture promotes the flexibility, scalability, and adapt the different technologies. This is very, very important, different technologies, because as I told you, if you want to bring the new flavor of the Python functionality, yes, you can adapt. Microservices architecture will adapt it. For example, login, order, inventory as constructed as a microservices in Java language. Now, if you feel the Python is behaving good in the notification functionality, then you can build the notification microservices bundle with Python. It supports. So you can either communicate from login to notification. Yes, you can able to very well connect. There is no issues will be there. So it is giving the flexibility to adapt the different technology for the different services. That's very, very important. That's the main advantage of the microservices architecture. It supports the different technology stacks. And then we see microservices. What is the microservices? Microservices very, very easy to build, right? It's a cloud enabled, scalable, okay, easy to deploy because it's a small granular deployment. Okay. And then we see what are the challenges of microservices, right? It has some challenges also because you have to, it's a distributed complexity of a distributed system. The initial setup of the infra cost is more because you have to invest more money on the server resources. Also, I told you each microservices has their own database. So data management will be a complexity. And you have to protect this entire application layer. How do you protect it? You have to provide a security, right? On top of this particular microservices, you have to provide a security. You have to provide the securities. Otherwise, the external API will be called your microservices without your control. So you have to protect your services. So these are all the challenges are there, but don't worry, we have a remedy to overcome these challenges that we will be step by step we are going to see in the further more courses. And then we see what is Spring Boot and why it is needed. Now you understand what is microservices, what is the advantage of it. To build that microservices, we need a very popular framework, which is nothing but Spring Boot, which is under the Java Echo world. Okay. To easily build the microservices architecture code, we can use Spring Boot, the popular framework, which is under Java Echo world. Why it is fast? Because it is less configuration. If you make a less configuration to set up the application, then it will be easily bring up. It saves the developers time. Moreover, spending on the configurations setup, it will really providing you the less configuration. Also, it is come with the embedded application servers like Tomcat. So you can easily deploy the code into embedded server and you can able to quickly test the applications. It is come with the production ready features also. What is that? Monitoring and health check, right? There are additional features are coming with the Spring Boot that later we are going to see in detail in the course. And it is also supports the Spring Echo World. What is Spring Echo World? It has, right? What is the Spring? It has the core container like beans, core context, and API supports, aspects supports, web MVC supports, right? Data JDBC supports. So all this entire Java Spring Boot Echo World, sorry, Spring Echo World systems will be supported by Spring Boot as well because it's a wrapper on top of the Spring Echo World. That's the beauty of the Spring Boot. Spring Boot themselves providing the additional features, and also it is adapting the Spring Echo World functionality as well. So as I told you, it's a less configuration. There is no XML based configuration as like the Spring applications. So it is developer friendly. You don't need to declare your controller or service layer in the bin, right? You don't need to do that. In the Spring application, we used to do that in the XML files, right? The same thing is not required for the Spring Boot application. The Spring Boot itself taking care of this auto wire and auto injections that we are going to see in the subsequent classes. That's about yesterday's demo session. Hope you guys are revised it now. Any doubts so far, you can able to ping me. Any doubts so far? Are you okay with it? Or you want to ask any question? Please let me know. If you're okay, then we can go for a two-day session. Okay, fine. Hope you guys are okay with me. And let me share another PPT. Maybe the guys who joined new today, I'll share for them. So this as part of this particular course, Mastery in Spring Boot and Microservices, the general information goes like this. The first two sessions, yesterday is a day one session. Today is a second day session. Two sessions will be free. Today's session also will be free to attend. And from third session, Zoom meeting link will be shared to registered participants only. The day one, yesterday session already available in the Logic Lab YouTube channel that you can able to go and revise it if you want. And today A recording session will be shared to only paid participants only. No batch shifting, no amount refund. Please join the WhatsApp community and follow the announcement options. This is very, very important. Join the WhatsApp community of the Logic Lab Technologies and just follow the announcement option. All the notes and recording will be available in the Graphy in the Logic Labs. If you have any clarification, you can reach out to the provided numbers and email ID to the clarification. That's about the general information I want to give it to you if you are a new joining today. Without wasting the time, let's go to the today's session. Okay, let me share that today's PPT. It is very interesting topic today. Lot of concepts, lot of learning. Let me share my screen. So this is what today's class agenda will be. So what day to agenda? What is web services? How this web services work internally? And what are all the key terminologies are available in the web services? What are all the types of web services we have in the market? What is SOAP web services? What is REST services? And what is between the difference between both of them? That's what we are going to see today. And with that, at last, I'm going to small Spring Boot application I'm going to construct and I'll show it to you for a demo. Starting from next class, next week onwards, it should be a hands-on session only, because I want to give you some theoretical concept to understand the keywords, jargons and all before getting into hands-on. That's what I'm giving you as much as information to you to make them comfortable. Okay. Once you settle down, let's pick the hands-on and then we'll move on. Okay. That's what it works. So without wasting the time, let's move on. So today, motivational quotes. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. Steve Jobs. It's a beautiful quote. That's the inspiration to make it done. Some of the important points here, maybe you can recollect a little later. If you're following this, then it will be good. Now, why we should learn web services? What is web services? I'll come into next slide, but you have to understand why we should learn web services. So it provides a solid foundation and understanding the fundamental concepts. So which will be useful when you learning the Spring Boot. So when you are learning the Spring Boot, you need some information, fundamental information you should have. Otherwise, it is very hard to understand the concepts. That's why this web services concept is solid fundamental to understand. One should have to learning the Spring Boot. So we need to understand the communication protocol, what we are going to use it. Whether it is SOAP or whether REST, that we need to understand first. So how we are going to integrate the external systems, that you need to understand. So now your integration skill will come into picture. Now, right now, as a monolithic, you are talking to each methods. Now in the web services world, you need to communicate to the external world or external systems. How are you going to do it? That's why we need to understand the web services. we can't directly communicate to the external systems, right? Some documentation, some API design documentation should be provided. So what is the system is expecting from us? What it will be providing to you as a consumer. So all the API documents and design will be provided to you. What is that? Moreover, it's a industry relevance. Most of the companies or industries are still adhere with this web services. So it is a industry relevance. So you're adapting this particular web services concept, then it will be you met the industry relevance and you can able to get into the market. Moreover, it is a career advancement. So these are the reasons one should learn the web services. Let me go back to the notes and then I'll be using sharing the useful one use case. Then it will be interesting. To understanding what is web services, okay, you can able to view my screen. Note we can one note you can able to view. You can able to view my note one note. Please type yes in the chat box if you can able to view. Okay, fine. So now let's go to the web services. Okay, now we can understand, right? So what is web service? We'll put this thing. Okay, 1 minute. I'll just maximize it. Okay. So now one use case. Okay, one use case. Maybe why it is coming up like this. Give me a second. I'm just altering the font. So now you are constructing the one e-commerce application. Okay, e-commerce application. Okay, which is in the Java language. Okay, fine. So you build the entire system. It's very beautiful. It is making able to order something XYZ product. Everything is okay, fine, no problem. Now, parallelly, your friend application, right? Your friend application, which is in Java. Assume it's a Java language. Okay. So this is the attempt one, something like this one, use case one. Your friend application, which is in Java application, what is does mean? It's a weather forecasting. Weather forecast. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, it's a, like a weather forecasting. Okay, for example, it is a city wise. Okay, if I type Mumbai, India, then it will give me the weather report like 35 degrees Celsius. It will be giving me. Okay, so your friend application, which is built in the Java language, which is nothing but the weather forecasting system. If you type the city and the country, it will give you the exact weather on the particular day. It will give you. Okay, now you want to take the feature from your friend and integrate with your e-commerce application. Okay, because you are interested on this feature, you want to bring that feature into your e-commerce application. Okay, this is application one, this is application two. Maybe I can type it here. It's a very interesting use case. Maybe you will understand more detail. Sorry about this typo. Application one, this is your application, your friend application, application two. Okay, so both are constructed in the Java language. That's a different case. Okay, fine. Now your friend application, it is a web service. So before that, maybe you have to understand what is web services. That's why we are going for the use case. Okay. So your friend application, which is also web hosted. Okay. It is a your friend application. Maybe I'll type it here. Give me a second. It is a web hosted. Okay. If you type your friend application website, you can able to get this temperature. Okay. In the form of HTML. Okay. In the form of HTML. Okay, maybe I'll maximize it. You understand the use case now? Any doubt so far? Okay, you are building the e-commerce application which is in Java. It does it work like ordering, everything will be taken place. Now your friend application which is also built in the Java language, which is nothing but the weather forecasting system. If you enter the city and the country, it will give you the temperature of the current city. Okay, in the HTML as an output. It is also a web-based host. Okay, web hosted. Okay. Now is your friend application is the web service? No, because it is giving you the HTML. If your output is HTML, you can't integrate with your application. Right? You got my understanding, right? So if your friend application is giving you the output as HTML, then you can't integrate that. Okay, you got my point? You can't integrate with your application. So what is the next step? Next action item we'll do. Action 2. Okay, what we are going to do? We will ask him, okay, you are also Java language, I am also Java language. Okay, what you will do? Presentation layer is the problem now, right? Presentation layer, which will be giving you the HTML as an output. Now, let's exclude the presentation layer. Give me the jar file, which is a combination of business layer and database layer, right? Let me try a quick hands-on. Like what I'm trying to say, it's a UI layer. That's nothing but the presentation layer that talks to your business layer, right? Business layer. And it talks to DAO layer, database access layer, right? And it talks to database, any of the database, whether it is SQL or it is something like Oracle or DB2, anything it can be. Okay, what not? Okay. So now the problem with is UA layer, right? It is giving you the, sorry, it is coming like this. Okay, maybe I'll put it like this. Okay, the HTML is an output from the UA layer only. Okay, so that's why you are not able to integrate it. What we are planning now, the approach 2 or action 2 is nothing but he is also a Java language application. We are also a Java language application. Okay, let's take the business layer and database layer as a jar and then give it to your application as a dependent jar. Okay, you understand the concept, right? So build the jar, which is nothing but combination of business layer plus DAO layer. So most of your logic will be present in business layer and DAO layer only, right? So just you're asking your friend to build the jar file, which is combination of business layer classes and DAO layer classes, and give it to you. Okay. Now you will be adding this jar, jar as a dependent jar for your application to bring the functionality, your friend's functionality into your application. Okay, you got my point, right? Sorry about the typo. So you got the understanding now. So UA first approach, UAE layer was the problem because it is giving you the HTML as an output. You can't integrate with your application. So for that only the action 2, what we are doing, we are taking out this logic, business layer logic and DO logic as a jar file and asking him to share to you to integrate with your application. Okay. This is it okay? This particular action will work? Okay? Definitely not. Will it work? Definitely not, right? No. Why it is no? Because this DAO layer also having it store some data, dependent data in the database. So here, the one of the critical component is database, which is not present in your jar file. Definitely, we can't take it out, right? You can take the logic, but how about the data? Who is providing this data to you? It's a database, right? The database dependent is still there. That's the problem 1. You understand the thing, right? Problem 1. What is that? Problem 1. Problem 1, DB dependency. What is the problem 2? If any of the logic changes in the business layer or DAO layer, again you have to ask your friend to rebuild the jar file and share it to you. So if I'm just putting the word, if any code changes in future, okay, in changes in business or DAO layer, you have to ask your friend to rebuild the jar file and share it to you. You got it right? Share it to you. Okay, that's a problem number 2. Anyway, we have a huge problem, that is deep dependency. Here itself we are broken. So problem 2, I'm just adding, like if any changes, code changes in the business layer or database layer, definitely you have to ask your friend to rebuild this jar and share it to you as a new dependent jar, because this code base is where it presents. It present in your friend application. You just have a jar only, right? Okay, later point he might be added some feature, extra feature in future. Okay, that will be still with him only. To bring that feature into your application, you have to ask your friend to rebuild the jar and share it to you. So that's another problem. Okay, so now this action also will not work because it has the tight dependency with the DB. You got the point, right? Right. So now what is next? Action 3. Action 2 is nothing but the HTML as an output that we can't integrate. Action 2, we are asking your friend to build the jar with the combination of business layer and DAO layer and share it to your application as a dependent jar. Will it work? Will not work because you have a DB dependency as a problem 1. Problem 2, if any changes in the business layer, DAO layer, you have to ask your friend to rebuild the jar and share it to you. That's another dependency. So anyway, it is broken. The action 2 will broken. Action D, what is action 3? So instead of that, what I'm trying to say, your friend, you just expose the endpoint, which is consumable by the other applications. Okay. So here also, this application is sharing the output as HTML output. Instead of that, you just share the neutralized, which is acceptable by any language application. That thing you can share it to me. You got my point, right? So what I'm trying to say, what if your friend application, that's a weather application, is providing an output in the format of output that is consumable by the another application? You got my point, right? Your friend output was HTML, which will be not accepted, not integrated with other applications. Okay. Instead of that, you are asking your friend front application that provide an output. That format should be acceptable or consumable by the other application. Now, this point of time only, our web services concept is born. You got the problem, right? You have a clear use case statement here, very important. Why we are adapting the web services is, this is a problem. When you are integrating the two different systems, right? These are the problems we are facing to further integration perspective, right? So what is the problem one? Your front application is providing you HTML, which is not accepted by your application. What is the problem two? You have some dependencies, right? Even though you are extracting the jar out of your front application, still it has some leftover dependency like deep dependency. That's why the another problem comes. So now what is the resolution we can put it? We can say that your front application output, I'm typing front application output, okay, which is acceptable by any of the application. Got it right? This is the concept we are going. Okay, your front application output which is acceptable by any of the language application. Okay, that's what. So here only this concept is called web services concept. Here only, what is that? What is that neutralized output? From there, the web services concept got born. Okay, so why we are studying web services? This is the use case to well explain you. Any doubt so far? I'm happy to help you to make the query clarified. Here, one more interesting also, maybe you can link it. Assume here your application is not Java. The another use case, it is .NET. Okay. So will he extract the jar out of it? Is it possible? You can build the jar out of the .NET language application. Is it possible? Definitely not possible, right? You have a Java application, you can extract the jar. If your friend application .NET, will you communicate? Will he can able to extract the jar out of the application? Definitely not. So this approach or action will be fail. To make that happen, you have to your application output is acceptable by any of the applications. It's a very, very important keyword. It should be neutralized, right? That output should be neutralized to accept any of the application. That's why web services concept got born. Okay. So not web service is nothing but you should not think that services delivered over a web. It's not a web services. I'm just repeating. You should not think that. You should not. I'm just putting the notes here. You should not think that. Okay, think that services exposed or delivered over a web is a web services. You should not think it's wrong. It's wrong. Okay. Why it is wrong? Because here your friend application also exposed outside, right? Web hosted. It's giving you HTML output, which is not accepted by the other language applications, right? Then it is not a web services. Your friend application is not a web services because it should be consumable by the other application as well. So you understand the concept? You should not think that web services delivered over a web is web services. Very, very important keyword. Okay. When it is called web services, the application output, which is acceptable by any of the application, is called web services. You got the point, right? What is the problem we are facing when integrating one application to other application? That's why web service concept got born. Okay. You got the point? Any doubts so far? Are you with me? If you have any doubts, just type in the chat box or raise the hand. we can connect, because this is the base setup. That's why I'm giving you a good example to you to make it understandable. Any doubts, please raise your hand or chat. Yes, please. Yes. Yes, you can talk, ML.
My first question is the when you said the DAO layer, what is the DAO layer?
Okay, DAO layer is nothing but the layer or code which is talking to database.
Okay.
Something if you want to fetch from the database, some Java code base you have to write in the class, right? That kind of layer is called data access layer. The layer which is talking to database is called DAO layer, which is nothing but the abbreviation like data access object layer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then
any other clarification, Emma?
Yes, the last notes, the notes that you wrote that no, the one at the top, not this line, the one at the top. Yeah.
Is on
service delivery over web is not wrong. I don't really get that one.
Okay, I'll put the word something like this. Anything or services, if you think like services deliver over a web is not a web services. You got point? Services deliver over a web is not a web services, because in this case, use case, your friend application, which is built on the .NET language, which is also giving you the output as a HTML, right?
Yeah.
But the problem here is the HTML output will not be consumable by the other applications. It is not possible. Okay, that's why it is not a web services.
Okay.
You can't blindly say that services deliver over a web is web services. We should not think that, because this HTML output will not be consumable by the other applications. That's why it is not a web services. That's why we are going to the action 3. If your application, if your friend application output, which is acceptable by the any of the application, which is called web services. That's what we are going to see in the furthermore classes. That is nothing but the SOAP or REST. If these are the neutral things, right? Neutral protocols, we are going to adapt it, because it is a globally accepted format. Okay. So anyway, I'll wait for some other more slides to come so that you'll get the picture about it. Now you understand the concept, right? Why we are adapting the web services, what are the problems we have. That's why we are going with web services concept.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any doubts, any clarifications? Fine, I assume everything looks okay for you. Okay, let's continue the rest of the classes. Okay, so now the thing is, we are getting into the web services concept now. Okay, now what do we understand the problem? Now the remedy is web services a remedy. To integrate two different systems connecting over a network, we need a web services. The output should be neutralized to accept by any of the application. That's why the web services concept got born. Okay, now let me go to the PPT. Now you understand the concept of the use case, what I have provided you. Let me share the PPT, guys. Give me a second. Okay, so now you can able to view my PPT, right? So now you understand web services. Okay, now you got the use case, you clarified everything. Now let's get into a little deeper. Okay, so now what is web services? Standardized way of integrating web-based applications using open standard over a internet protocol. That's what I'm telling. Standard way. If you are reading this line before this example, then you will not get it. That's why I was explaining the use case, the friend application, right? Weather forecasting application. That's why I put that example. Now you understand that the standardized way of integrating two different web-based application using a open standard over a internet protocol. Okay, that's why the web services is born. It uses the protocol and standards such as HTTP, XML, SOAP, WSDL, and others. These are all the communication protocols. Okay, XML is the one of the concept. SOAP also the one of the concept, and HTTP you people already aware of it. It's a web-based protocol, right? So coming back to the third point, the platform agnostic method of communication. I told you, right? Your friend application in the .NET, your application in the Java. Now this both different system should communicate with each other over the internet. If it is possible, then it is called web services. Simple. Two different systems in the two different technology stack. Example, .NET application and Java application. If both the systems are talking each other without any problem, then it is a web services. Okay, how it is possible? That's why the W3 definition of the web services born. So software system designed to support interoperable. What is the meaning of interoperable? Two different tech stack application talking each other, machine to machine interaction over the internet. If it is possible, then it is web services. You got the point, right? Very important clarification, right? So we put the use case already. You can just connect the dots in with this abbreviation, which is provided by the W3. Okay. So what is web services? Web service is nothing but software system designed to support interoperable machine to machine interaction over a network. If it is so, that is a web services. Got my point, right? Any doubt so far? So how to make the web services platform independent? You can think like that. Okay, I understand now what is web services. That is very well clearly definition is done. Software system designed to support interoperable machine to machine interaction over a network is called web services. That I'm clear. But how it is being achieved? That's another question will pop up in our mind, right? How to make web services platform independent? How it can be done? This can be done by the communication protocol. The communication should be platform independent, right? What is communication? Request and response. We both are talking each other now. So I'm asking the question, what is your name? That's a request. My name is John. That's a response from you, right? So now the communication should be platform independent, right? So only then both can each other understand the question. How that can be done? That can be done by the platform independent protocols communication. Very simple example. If both are talking each other, we know the neutralized language, which is English, right? If we both know the English, then we can easily communicate with each other. If I don't know French, you're talking in French to me, then I can't answer it. Right? Some neutralized protocol should be there. What is that neutralized protocol in this web services world? It's nothing but the XML and JSON. So I'm just repeating how to make the web services platform independent, how it is being achieved. It is achieved by the communication. What is communication? Request and response. The communication should be platform independent. If that is the case, your web services will be a platform independent. What are those protocols? XML and JSON as the platform independent protocols. Any doubt so far? Now you understand what is web services. Now, how to make the web services platform independent, right? These both concepts are solid now. Any doubts? Any doubts so far? We have more interesting topics to cover. Any doubts then and there you can clarify so that you can stick with me till end of the class. Okay, I assume everything looks good. Let's move on to the subsequent slides. Okay, fine. Now let's move on to the next very important key terminologies, because these are all the base concept. I have to set it to you. Only then when I'm coding, you can able to understand. Otherwise, it will be hard for you. That's why I'm putting the concepts to you now. Okay. Right. So once the base is ready, then we can start coding. Okay. Very easily. Okay, fine. Coming back to the topic, key terminologies, right? You have to understand some set of key terminologies you have to understand. Okay. So request and response. What is request? I am talking to you. What is your name? That is a request. You are responding back. My name is John. That's a response. Simple. Request and response. Okay. Now, message exchange format. I told you some independent platform protocol should be established to make our web services as platform independent. That is the how it can be done. It is done by XML and JSON. What is those? Message exchange format. My request will be the format of XML or in format of JSON. That is called message exchange format. If I'm talking to another system, my friend system, my request format should be in the form of XML or JSON. Right? So now the third one, service provider. What is service provider? The use case. We put it right. So you are building the e-commerce application in the Java. Your friend is build the system weather forecasting. Now you are interested on his feature, right? The weather providing feature you are interested. Now you want to consume that particular consuming. You want to take that feature, bring that feature into your application, right? You want to bring that functionality what he is providing. You want to bring that feature into your application. Now he is a service provider. Your friend is a service provider because his application is providing the service to you. The weather forecasting functionality your friend application is giving to you. So in this use case, he is a service provider. Your friend application, right? Your friend application is a service provider. Okay. Now, so what is service consumer? You are consuming your friend application feature, right? Weather forecasting. Now your application, right? Okay. So your application is nothing but the service consumer. Okay. Got it? Now coming back to the another concept, service definition. What is service definition? Okay. You want you I mean in the verbal, I'm telling that you want to take that or bring that feature into your application. How do you bring it? How do you bring it? That's a question, right? How do you bring it? That is done by the service definition contract. What is service definition contract? It's nothing but the API documentation. Okay. Something like a API documentation. Okay. So what is API documentation? Your friend application, except the maybe I'll go back to the notes. Maybe it's hard to explain here. Maybe give me a second. I'm just going to the notes. Yep. Okay, fine. So I'm coming back to the notes here. Okay, so now what I'm trying to here explain you. So this is your system. Maybe I'll draw that. Give me a second. Yep. So this is your application. Okay. This is your friend application. Okay. 1 minute. How do I write it? Okay, fine. So I can't type it here. Add pen, insert, shapes, text. Text is it's not disabled. Okay. So nothing but okay. So it is your application. This is your friend application. Okay. I can't type friend application. Okay. Now your desire thing is you want to bring the temperature into of the city into your application. That's your target. Okay. So now your friend application has to provide the information. Oh, now to providing that information, he needs something, right? Some XYZ parameter, right? For example, suppose you want to get the Mumbai, India, which is under India country. Okay. You want to bring the temperature. Okay. Temperature into your portal. Okay. Now this information, Mumbai, India, right? That should be communicated to the your friend application, right? Only then he can send the temperature 35 into your application response, right? I mean, I'm just very hard to type it here. Excuse me, maybe I have some problem. Okay, so I'm just typing here. Maybe I'll fix that note issues later. Okay, now you got the concept, right? So you want to bring this Mumbai, India location temperature into your web application, right? You want to bring that. Your friend application is expecting the country and city from you. Only then he can provide you the temperature, right? So now the request parameter is Mumbai, India and the date, right? What is the input parameter? Maybe I'll type it here. 0.1. Maybe why it is little small. Okay. So look at here. So your, maybe I'm just too low. Okay. Your friend application is expecting, yeah, 3 parameters. Assume it's a 3 parameters. Okay. Parameters nothing but the like inputs. Okay. Inputs. Okay. So what are those? First point, it is expecting the city name. Okay. It is expecting the country name and it is expecting the date of the temperature. Okay. Date of the, yeah, city temperature, something like that. City temperature. Okay. These are all the inputs to him. Okay. He needs it. Otherwise, he can't provide the output, right? So in this time, what is the request parameters? It is the city name, country name, and date of the city temperature. Okay. These are the important information you have to pass on to your friend application. Then he will be taking the temperature out from the database and give it to you, which is nothing but the response, right? Response as a like a temperature of the city. Okay. It's nothing but the 35°C. Okay. Now these 3 are inputs, request. This is a response output. Okay. This is called contract. This is called contract. This both system should share the contract, right? That contract is nothing but, that's what the bond systems coming up. That is nothing but the service definition. This contract is called service definition. You got the concept now, right? So here in this document, contract, right? The contract is called service definition. This nothing but the what is the request parameters is expected and what is the response is expected. Okay. Response params. Okay. If it is having this information, only then you can easily communicate. You can understand, right? So for example, if you want to consume XYZ service, then what I need to pass in the request? what he will deliver, only then you can construct the code as such and you can request the web services call. You got it right? What is service definition? Service definition is a kind of API documentation where the request parameter and response parameter will be declared. Okay. So as a developer, I'm a developer. I'm looking into the service definition documentation. Okay. If I am referring, I can understand that, okay, this is the web services expecting this is the parameters is expecting. If I'm passing this expectation parameter to my friend application, he will give me a single string response. Okay. Which is nothing but the temperature of the city. Okay. I got it. Without talking to him, if he share this documentation, API documentation to me, I can understand what his application is expecting as a request parameter, what it is giving back to me as a response parameter. I can understand it. So this mutual agreement between two different systems is called service definition. You got it? Any doubts? Please ping me or raise your hands. We'll discuss. This is one of the critical parameter. Okay. You got it? What is service definition documentation? It has what are the endpoints are present in the application. What is the request parameter expectation for the service? What is the response output for the service? Example, if you want to get the temperature of the city, right? You have to pass the city name. You have to pass the country name. You have to pass the date of the city, right? Of the city temperature. You want which date you want to get the temperature of the city. If these three are input to the your friend application system, he will consume that request and he'll give the temperature from his database and give it to me as a response. Now these three parameters request, one of the parameters response, right? This will be clearly declared in this service definition document. That is nothing but the contract between the two systems. It can be your application, it can be my application, it can be XYZ application. Any application should read the document called service definition. He can understand your friend application and then he can, whoever passing the city name, country name and date of the city, they can get the response back as a temperature of the city. This is a very vital role played by the service definition. It's a kind of API documentation. Right? I'm putting the word API, kind of API documentation. Okay. Okay. Any doubts, sir? So much. Are you okay? Any doubts? Let's move on to the next topic. Okay. Hope you guys understand now. Okay. Let's move on to the next topics. Okay. Okay. Let me share the PPT again. Okay, coming back to this one. Okay, so now you understand the request response, message format, service provider, service consumer, service definition, the transportation, how we can communicate to one system to other system. It can be HTTP. You know HTTP, it's a web request, right? Kind of web request. If you go to the browser, if you're typing google.com, this is being used by the HTTP protocol as a request pattern, right? That's a protocol is used to communicate to between the two systems, right? That's a transportation layer. Now there is another layer also there. That is nothing but the message queue, MQ. Message queue is nothing but the kind of queue. If you're dropping the message into queue, then it will be consumed by the other application on the other end, and he'll go on. Okay, that is called the transportation layer of MQ. There are two modes of transportation is available. One is HTTP web-based, another one is MQ based. Okay, fine. This is the key terminology I want to give it to you people. Okay, hope you guys are comfortable now. Let's move on to the little more deep dive about the service definition. Okay, so now what is the format of the service definition? Now we understand what is service definition. It's a kind of API documentation or agreement contract between the systems, right? What will have that in the service definition document? As I told you, request structure will be there, response structure will be there, and what are the endpoints are exposed by the system or application. Assume your friend application. Okay, so your friend application exposing how much ever endpoints to the outside world, whether it may be the temperature of the city or temperature of the list of countries, or it may be the like a humidity, or is it's a pollution. It can be either not any of the things. Okay, any services your friend application exposing outside, all the list of endpoints will be part of this service definition document. You got the point, right? We take an example of the temperature. Like that, your friend can be exposed multiple endpoints about the like humidity, as I told you, humidity or pollution or whatnot. Okay, so like that, he may expose n number of endpoints from his application. Those endpoints will be part of this service definition, right? So tomorrow, if I want to consume the pollution endpoint, what your friend application is providing, that I can take it up. I can integrate with my application. For that, I have to read the service definition of my friend application, and I'll understand what is the request structure he is expecting and what he will be delivering as a response. Those will be part of my service definition document. Okay. That will be part of the service definition documentation. Okay. That's the kind of API documentation. Okay. Now let's move on to the next topic. That is nothing but the type of web services. Now we understand what is web services, why we should do learn, how this web service is independent, right? Platform independent, how it can be done, and what is service definition. These are the concepts we are strong now. Now let's go to the little deeper into the web services concepts. Okay. So now what are the types of web services right now? There are several web services are there. Several type of web services are there in the market. But we are going to look into very specific in this session. One is nothing but SOAP. What is SOAP? Web services, simple object access protocol, which is nothing but the SOAP as a web services. The another one is REST. It's quite very famous nowadays. REST, representational state transfer web services, REST web services. And we have multiple JSON RPC remote procedure call, XML RPC remote procedure call. These are all the types of web services right now in the market, but we are going to be specific about two web services in this session. One is SOAP, another one is REST. Okay, fine. So type of web services. Okay, now let's go to the SOAP web services. So it is nothing but the specific way of building the web services. Now in the SOAP, if you are adapting the SOAP web services, it is a very well definition oriented. Okay, very well structure oriented. Okay, you have to strictly follow the structure of the web service definition document. Okay, as I told you, what is that definition document? Service definition document. What is a request structure? What is a response? You have to very much adhere. You have to very much adhere these structures in your project. Otherwise, it will be fail over. It will be fail to communicate. Okay, so that's why I'm telling it is a very structure oriented. It has a clear request and response structure should follow. One should follow the service definition request response structure. Otherwise, it will fail. Okay, the SOAP is XML as a request and response. Your request also in the form of XML. Your response also will be in the form of XML. Okay, both the request and response will be in the form of XML. in the SOAP web services world. Okay. Got it right? So next important point, the transportation. How this transportation happen? It is via MQ or via HTTP. Both are possible in the SOAP web services world. Okay. And it has their own service definition documentation called WSDL, Web Service Definition Language. In the SOAP service world, we will call the service definition as WSDL, which is nothing but Web Service Definition Language. I have provided you a sample SOAP web services request here. You can find the header here. Maybe I'll maximize it. Give me a second. Now you can see, right? Little maximized it. So you can see the header here. You can see the body, and that's it. And the end of the tag. Usually the body tag which has the request and response or response. Okay. The body tag in the request will have the request. The body tag of the response have the response tag. Okay. And header will be consisting of the required information about the client. Okay. So it's a sample SOAP web services structure. Okay. Okay, fine. So I'm just summarizing. SOAP web services is a one should follow the structure properly. Whatever the web service definition language structure that you have to follow. Okay. This WSDL has the what is the request structure and what is the response structure. You have to follow this request structure in your code, Java code. You have to follow the code. Okay. And the SOAP web services world, both the request and response in the form of XML. Okay. The transportation layer, it is uses MQ or hypertext, right? HTTP. Both can be used in the SOAP web services. Okay, fine. Any doubts? So this is why WSDL file looks like this is similar like service definition only. In the SOAP world, they are telling WSDL. Okay, it is also constructing as a request structure, response structure, what is the endpoints are there, and request response format of it. Okay, all the things will be being declared in the WSDL file. Fine. Any doubts? Are you okay? Fine. Fine. Let's go to the next thing. That is nothing but the REST web services. So as I told you, the REST web services build on top of the HTTP feature. Why? I'm telling you a little later once I completed it. Okay. So make the best use of HTTP. Okay. Of the REST web services. Okay. And whatever all the HTTP methods are there, everything will be used in REST web services as well. Like HTTP methods such as get, post, put, delete. All the functionalities will be used by REST web services as well. What is that? I'll explain a little later. Just to consume the concept. So resource based. What is resource based? I'll tell you. It is stateless. You people know that HTTP is stateless, right? We are not storing any of the user information, right? So it is stateless. If you're going to browser, you are typing google.com. It is going to the server and it is bringing you the google.com web page. Next request, you're typing just what is Spring Boot in the Google search. It is again going to the server and fetching the results. So here HTTP is not a stateful. It is a complete statelessness. Okay. So it's not tracking who is the user, whether he is coming yearly or not. So that's why HTTP is a stateless, and it is also a cacheability, right? You can also browserable cacheability, right? It is also caching it. So just to take away is your REST web services make best use of HTTP. It is built on top of the HTTP. Whatever the HTTP providing right now, all the features will be used by the REST web services also. Don't worry, I'll explain little detail so that you'll get the concepts. Okay. So now what I'm trying to show, you can think of why there are so many protocols are there in the market. Then why REST is on top of HTTP? It is built, right? That's a question you may have. Because the answer is very simple. The design principle of REST exactly matching with the HTTP protocol. I'm just repeating the word, very important word. The design principles of the REST is completely aligned well with characteristics of HTTP protocol. Now you have to understand what is the characteristics of HTTP protocol. Only then you can able to relate it. Got it right? I'm just repeating the very important word. That's why I'm repeating again and again. The design principles of REST aligned well with characteristics of HTTP protocol. That's a clear foundation. Okay. So now you have to understand what are the characteristics of HTTP protocol. As I told you here, it's a stateless, right? Why stateless? Each HTTP request is independent and does not require the server to remember the previous request. Correct? Understand? Why HTTP is stateless? Because each HTTP request is independent and does not require the server to remember previous request. As exact give you example, right? When you type google.com, it is going to server, it's fetching the google.com page. Then again you're typing so on so search, it is giving back to your results. Now the server is not remembering the previous request of you. It is every time it is giving you as a treating as a fresher, right? So each HTTP request is independent and does not require the server to remember the previous request. Simple. Okay. So because HTTP naturally supports this, the same feature is expected in REST also. Right? The each request from the server, from client to server, must contain the all information of the server need to be fulfilled. The request. Right? That's why REST is adapting the HTTP because it is stateless. Your microservices also going to be stateless. That is why we are adapting this HTTP characteristics. We build on top of the HTTP. Okay. Point number one, stateless. Point number two, we have so many methods are there, right? HTTP methods are there. As I mentioned you, get, post, put, delete. Right? So all this will be accommodated in the REST web services as well. How we can done? Maybe I'll use the note, one note, please. Give me a second. So I'm just typing here. Point number one, it is a stateless, right? Because server does not require to remember the earlier request of the user. Okay, that's why HTTP is stateless. Second point, very, very important point. That is nothing but the CRUD operations, right? What is CRUD operation? As I told you, it's a get. HTTP has the get method, right? So now we are using the get to retrieve the resources, right? Retrieving, sorry, typo is retrieve the resources. So if you want to get the information about the XYZ resources, you can use the HTTP get. It's under HTTP CRUD operations. Okay. So now HTTP also has the post, right? Post method. So why it is linked to the post? Creating the resources. Right? So you have also put also there, right? So what is put actually? To update the resources. Right? And then we have a delete also. You people already know we have a delete operation also. That is nothing but the removing a resources. It is done by the HTTP. The same thing we also required in the REST also. That's why we are adapting the HTTP protocol on top of it. Right? These are all questions about why REST is adapting the HTTP protocol. That's why I'm giving these answers. Please, very, very important as part of understanding as well as interview. Okay. So why it is stateless? Because it does not remember the previous request of the user. And also it is supporting the CRUD operation like getting, posting, putting, and deleting. Example, very, very simple. If you want to get the student information, right? Like for example, student of 100, if you want to get it, right? Student ID get, you will get the student ID information. If you want to create a student in the database, you can go for a student, right? So these are the endpoints. I'll explain in detail and with the hands-on. So here also student will be there. Okay, but the method will be different. So delete operation, you people already know what is the student ID you want to delete and what is the ID of it. Okay, something like. So the HTTP CRUD operations will be completely inherited to the RESTful web services also. That's another advantage. Okay, and we have a cacheability. Cacheability, I told you, the browser also supporting the cache control, right? That's a huge advantage. Even the RESTful web services also, we need that to improving the performance by reducing the resource in the server, right? Cacheability. Another important point, I'll tell you cacheability. Why it is important? Because you can reduce the load of the server, right? You don't need to repeatedly requesting the same information again and again. You can avoid that by using the cacheability. Okay, cacheability. Okay, that is also required for the RESTful web services also. You can reduce the load of the server by caching the information. Okay, that is called cacheability, which is also supported by HTTP. That's why we are adapting the HTTP as a protocol for the RESTful web services. Okay, very important. Okay, anything doubt so far? Okay, then very, very important point, you have to secure it, right? Even that HTTP also supports the HTTPS, right? This is for secure communication, right? Secure connection. The same thing also required for REST also. So RESTful web services also. So that's why it is also adapting the HTTP protocol. Okay, very, very important. Okay. Anything, any doubts so far? Are you okay? Any doubts? Any need furthermore clarification? The last point, with that we'll complete standardization. Okay. What is standardization? You people already know HTTP is very well adapted, right? Very well adapted in the world, right? So to make that standardization also, REST is using, RESTful is using. Okay, very simple. Okay, fine. So any doubt so far? Why we are, the question here is, I'm just typing why we are typing, why REST is adapting a HTTP protocol. That's a question. There are so many protocols are available in the market. Why REST is very specifically focusing about the HTTP adoption? That's a question. To answering that only, we are putting all 5 points, important points. One is stateless, because you people already know HTTP is a stateless. So that what is stateless? Server does not require remember the ERA request of the user. That is a stateless. We want the same feature also in the RESTful web services also. That's why we are adapting the HTTP. And HTTP having the default methods CURD operation like get, post, put, delete. The same functionality required for REST also. So just adapting the HTTP. And the third point, cacheability. Why the cache is required? You don't want to load the server. Instead of that, you can cache the information. That's why HTTP is supporting the cache in the browser. The same functionality is required in the RESTful web services also. Right? That's why cacheability is important. Fourth one, HTTPS supports the secure connection. The same functionality is required for web services as well as part of the security. And final point, standardization. You people already know HTTP is adapted in the world very long back. That's why it is also adapting the RESTful web services, right? RESTful web services adapting the HTTP for the quick adaptation. Okay, so it meets the standard. So coming back to the very important point again, why we are using the HTTP provider? It met the design principles of the RESTful. Another quick answer. It's adapting the design principle of the REST web services. Okay, so HTTP is adapting the design principles of the web services. That's why we are using the HTTP web services. Okay, fine. Then let's go to the PPT. Don't worry, I have a hands-on in the subsequent classes. I will explain each and everything so that you will get the clarified. Okay. So now coming back to the REST. Okay, there is no standard exchange format. But if you remember, in the SOAP world, we have a clear messaging protocol that is XML. But in the REST web services, there is no data exchange, no clear-cut data exchange format. But we are supporting JSON. JSON is quite popular. That's why REST is using the data exchange format as a JSON, as a structure. And what is the transportation layer? It is accept only HTTP, not MQ. But a SOAP is supporting MQ, but REST is only supporting the HTTP. Okay. And the service definition perspective, there is no standard, but there are somewhere there actually WADL and Swagger. Maybe I'll cover up Swagger little later. Okay, Swagger. Swagger is nothing but the service definition kind of thing. So by using Swagger, you can understand your RESTful web services. What are the endpoints are exposed from your application? What is a request structure? What is a response structure? That we can get it. Okay, so I'm just going back here. Here WSDL, it's a very tightly structured one. One must should follow. The clear request and response structure should follow. But here there is no clear-cut thing. Only thing, the Swagger will be giving you the clear definition about how the structure will be. But the data exchange format is there is no clear-cut format, but mostly JSON is popular. But here only XML is request and response supports. Okay, any doubts in the REST and SOAP? Going forward, we are going more detail with REST only. We are going to do the hands-on with REST only, not the SOAP, only complete REST only. Okay, so now the differentiation. SOAP is a very restricted, right? You have one must follow the request and response structure, but REST is nothing but that way. It's a structure, architectural approach. It is an approach. Okay, data exchange format. It supports only XML. SOAP REST is supporting JSON. Service definition perspective, it is a WSDL. REST perspective, WADL was there. Then later the Swagger bond. The Swagger I'll show you in the subsequent classes. And transportation perspective, it supports MQ as well as HTTP. REST is supporting only HTTP alone, right? That's about SOAP versus REST. Now we understand what is web services, why we should learn, how the web services is platform independent, how the magic has been done, and what are all the different type of web services are present in the market. What is SOAP web services? What is RESTful web services? And what is web service definition documentation, service definition documentation, how it is structured. Okay. What is the difference between SOAP and REST? This all different topics we have covered today as part of this demo class. Now going forward, now we have another 15 minutes, solid 15 minutes. What I'm going to do, I will be creating a small Hello World Spring Boot application in IntelliJ. And then I'll show you what is the magic the Spring Boot does for us. How the developer life is very easy now by using the Spring Boot, right? That I'm going to show it up. Before that, I'll just explain you in this entire hands-on, what is the technology stack we are going to use it. Okay, so that when you come to next class, that is a prerequisite to install all the components. Okay, let me share the OneNote. I'll type it here, what we are going to do. What are the required parameters? Okay, so the required prerequisite. Okay, or sorry about typo. Point number 1. So you have to install the IntelliJ. Okay, that's the IDE. Okay, that is free to install. Maybe I'll in WhatsApp group, I'll share you that. You can just go to the link and then you can install the IDE. Okay, we are going to use the IntelliJ IDE going forward for the hands-on. Okay, point number 1. And point number 2, we are going to do the Java 17 as our Java version we are going to use. Okay, that's a Java 17 version you have to install. Then going forward, we are going to work on the Spring Boot version 3. That's the latest currently in the market. Okay, so Spring Boot 3 version supports only Java 17 or greater. So I'm asking you people to install the Java 17 version, and this is no problem that we'll handle it in the Spring Initializer that I'll tell you. But for your sake, I'm just telling you Spring Boot version 3.00, we are going to use it. Okay, fine. Then you need to install the DB. Okay, we are going to use the MySQL. Okay, MySQL come with the 2 flavors. One is like a MySQL DB. Another one is one more thing we have, that is nothing but the UI presentation. Okay, like a workbench. Okay, fine. So that's it right now. You might be having the Maven also, Maven build tool installed. Okay, that's fine, no problem. So I'm just repeating again what are the things are required for the subsequent classes, because going forward it will be hands-on. So please set the environment ready so that you can code along with me or later also, no problem. So IntelliJ IDE is very important, and Java 17 version you have to install up and running. So Spring Boot version 3 we are going to work on that going forward, and MySQL you have to download. MySQL has 2 versions, one with installing the DB, another one is nothing but the workbench, which is nothing but the UI representation. Okay, workbench you have to install. Don't worry, I will providing the links to you so that you can install in the WhatsApp. I'll just put it in the WhatsApp group. You can use it. Okay, and you might be having the build tool already. Okay, so these are the prerequisites for the next class. Okay, so now we have 15 minutes. Let's go to the sample program and then we'll wind up the demo class. So for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to share my web browser. So I'm just repeating the sessions. Furthermore, sessions going to be 30% will be in the theoretical, 70 will be hands-on, complete hands-on. Okay, just remember that. So make the things done quickly. Okay, now Spring Initializer. Let's go. Okay, so this is the quite interesting web tool. Okay, so by using that, you can build the initial Spring Boot package, make it ready quickly. I'll tell you how we can do it. Some people might be know about Spring Initializer. I'm just repeating for all. Okay. So what is the build tool project? We are going to use it. I'm going to build the Maven project, right? So I'm just choosing the option as Maven. If you are, some people will go for a Gradle or Kotlin. Okay. Now I am interested on Maven project. So I'm choosing the language as Java because I'm not going to Kotlin. I'm going to Java. So Spring Boot version, whatever the standardized version, if you feel, then you can go for it. Right now, the standardized version, I can feed it as a 3.3.4. I'm choosing it. Snapshot also you can choose, no worries. Okay. So don't choose the M3 version. It's a intermediate version. Okay. Don't go for it. Okay. You can go for a standardized version like 3.3.4 is a standard version. And then you can choose the project metadata. What do you want to like a project structure looks like. Okay. So I'm just typing group name as com dot logic labs dot okay Spring Boot demo, something like that. Okay, like it is hello world. Okay, fine. So my package structure will be something like this in the project: com dot logic labs Spring Boot hyphen demo dot hello world. Okay, this is what my project structure looks like, and this is my project name. Okay, so I'm choosing the package as jar file, and Java version 17 is the minimal requirement for choosing the Spring Boot 3. So I'm choosing the Spring Boot 3, then I have to select the 17 or greater Java versions. Okay, so packaging jar Java version as 17. Now it need a dependencies to add on to the project. So the basic important package is web, Spring Web. Okay, in the Spring Web, if you read out the description here, you can understand. So if you want to build the RESTful web services application, this is very, very important dependency of the project. So build web, including RESTful web services application using the string MVC, right? That time you have to choose it. Also, it has some more advantages of bringing the Apache Tomcat as a default embedded container. You don't need to configure the external application server. Instead of that, Spring Boot itself giving you the feature as bringing the Apache Tomcat, one of the application server, as a default embedded container. What it means, whenever the package is ready, right, that package will be automatically deployed into the Apache Tomcat on the fly, and you can able to access the endpoints very easily. That's why this Spring Boot is very much helpful for the developer life easy. Okay, I'm just adding the dependency. I'll show you. Okay, I'm adding the Spring Boot. Okay, so right now we have so many dependencies to add, but don't worry. For printing the hello world, we don't want such a great dependencies. Okay, this is the base dependency. You have to add it. Once you added it, you can also verify in this explore option. By clicking the explore option, one can understand how the pom.xml looks like. It has the parent. Maybe next class I'll explain you what is parent, how it is working, the transitive dependencies, how the versioning, everything I'll explain you. Now just observe the pom.xml. Okay, so right now we are using the Java version as a 17 we chosen in the Spring Initializer. And what is the dependency we added? It is nothing but the Spring Boot started web as a one of the main dependency to build the RESTful web services, right? That's the one of the dependency. By default, the Spring Boot started test is coming as a additional dependency for the project. Why it is required? It is required for the unit testing. I'll explain you separately. Unit testing, we have a very good topic in the session. Okay, in the course. Okay, that is the default dependency will come along with this dependencies. Okay, that's it. Let me close this. Let me generate the default package out of this configuration. Okay, so right side corner you can see that the package is going to download from the Spring Initializer. It is downloaded. Give me a second. I'll be extract it and then I'll share you in the separately. Okay, give me a second. I'm just extracting it. To extract all. Okay. Hello world is fine. Okay, then let me copy this folder and then I'll put it into classes hands-on. Yep. I'm just opening the IntelliJ file. Open. Labs, Spring Boot content, personal. Okay. Give me a second. It is loading. And just open the IntelliJ. Open. Okay, I'm just opening. Open. Hands-on batch. Okay, hands-on. Hello world. Yeah, here you go. Press project. New window. Yeah, I'm sharing my IntelliJ screen. Now you people can understand. Can you able to view my screen, IntelliJ? Yeah. So I just exported the hello world, what we have created. Okay. So this is the structure. Okay. So hello world is my project. So right now in the SRC main Java, you can find the package. Okay. That is nothing but we created. Hello world is the main Spring Boot application. Okay. This is how the main application Java file looks like. Okay. So we have a one important Spring Boot application. It has the main method. The main method will be running the application. Okay, it's a main application. Okay, that's a point number one. And it has the resources folder also. In the resources folder, you have some folders that you can ignore now. You have a very important property file, which is nothing but the application.properties. The application.properties, it has the name of the Spring Boot application. That's nothing but the hello world. By default, the port number which is used as 8080. That's a default HTTP port 8080 is being used. Okay, fine. So we have a Java file. That's a main application file, Spring Boot main application file. And then we have a very important application.properties, okay, which is nothing but the name of the Spring Boot application. Then we have a pom.xml that we have exported already. Okay, so all are required. Okay, fine. So now what we are going to do, we want to access our one of the endpoint we are going to expose. Okay, so for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new package, which is nothing but we can call it as a controller. Okay, so I'm creating the package called controller. In the right side, in the package, I'm going to create a new class. Okay, new controller class. I'm going to create it. New Java class. You can type. You can put it as a hello world controller. Okay, very simple class. Okay. Okay, so it is a simple controller class. So I want to assign a role. Maybe tomorrow, next week class, I'll detail. explain you how internally it works, how it is exposing, who is helping. A lot of topics to cover. We are just to set a base, right? So a lot of topics to cover. You have to annotate this particular class as a REST controller. Okay, I'll tell you in the next class what is REST controller and all. Just to make the comfort now, how the developer life is easy to easily expose the endpoint and make the work done quickly without concentrating on the configuration, without concentrating on the configuring the Tomcat server. I don't want to mind about it. Now I can easily print hello world quickly on the fly. Within 2 minutes, I can able to expose the endpoint and able to bring up my application server very quickly, right? That's the beauty of it. Okay, that's what I'm telling you. Okay, fine. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to just type. I'm just type the small class public string. Okay, say hello. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. So it is here. I'm just printing. Okay, so return hello world. That's it. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, so I need to assign a role. Get mapping. I want to assign it as a hello world. That's it. Any doubts so far? So what is get mapping? Don't worry about it. I'll explain in detail. I'm just typing. Okay, whenever I'm hitting, I'm exposed endpoint now. Okay, so what is endpoint now? Slash hello world. It's my RESTful endpoint. If I type it, if I type in the browser, it will give has to give me the hello world. That's it. See here, I write a small number of lines I have written. I can able to expose the endpoint and I can able to print the message very on the fly, right? That's the beauty of the Spring Boot. If it's taking the life pain of the developers and it is owning the responsibility of the building the application, deploying the application in the app server, Tomcat, and bringing up everything is taken care by its own. Okay, now I have written a RESTful web services class, and then I'm just typing the get mapping as a slash hello world. Whenever I'm accessing it, I will be getting the hello world, right? That's it. So how to run this application? Okay, that's another one. So right click, if you go to the main application, and then you have to give a right click, and then you have to run as a Java application. So if you monitor the console log, you can able to understand what are the things are happening. So what happening actually, that's a Spring version we are using 3.3.4, and it is accepting the Tomcat, right? So it is deploying the application into the Tomcat. See here, Tomcat installation port number 8080. That's a default port. And it is deploying the jar file what we have created into the application. It is deploying into the Tomcat, and then it is starting the port 8080. Now my application is started up. Within the 2.95 seconds, I can able to bring up my application, right? That's what it does. Any doubts? Any doubts so far? How to, you can raise the hand or you can able to type it in the chat box so that I can able to understand you. So what I'll do, I'll go to the browser and I'll show you. So how the results will be. So I'm just go to the browser, and then what I'm doing, I'm just typing http://localhost hello world. See here. So hello world is being displayed as a response. It's a string, right? It's a string. So now I can able to expose the endpoint, hello world. I can able to retrieve the results back quickly. So here the developer type is very, very less, right? Within a 2 minutes of time, I can able to bring up the application. I can able to expose the endpoint. I can able to get the response back from my web services, right? So now what is the request here actually? It's like a browser, right? So I'm just typing and entering. What is the HTTP protocol we're using, right? It's a GET. So whatever the browser you're typing and putting, right? It's a GET, right? It's a GET request. So now my RESTful web services is using the benefit of HTTP GET method, so that I can able to pass on the arguments and then I can able to get the response back. So now we understand how to construct the Spring Boot web application on the fly without adding the burden about configuring the Tomcat or configuring the application related services. Without even that, I can able to quickly bring up the application and I can able to expose the endpoint. I can able to get the response back. That's the beauty of the Spring Boot. It's very fast, rapid development. It helps. So you, as a developer, you can mainly focus about the business problems more than the service configurations and Tomcat configuration. The pain, you can remove it. That's the beauty of the Spring Boot. Okay. So now we understand the concept of web services. Okay. So why we have to understand the web services, how it is making us a platform independent. Okay. And what are the types of web services are available in the market? Now we are mainly focusing about the RESTful web services. Now we have built the sample Hello World Spring Boot application. Okay. With that, we'll wind up this session, demo session. Okay. So more and more hands-on are waiting. Okay. So going forward, it will be a 70% will be the hands-on. Lot of concepts to cover, to explore more and more. Okay. So I'm just waiting for your presence in the next week. Okay. If you're interested, just go for enrollment and you can register yourself and make the things available, whatever I showed you, right? In the OneNote, all the prerequisite softwares, just install it. You can, along with me, you can code or you can watching the video and code, but you just stick with the classes so that you can able to nail down it. Okay, I got a raise hand from Emma. 1 minute. I'm just Emma. Yes, please. You can proceed, Emma. Yeah.
Yep. For the what was it called again?
Yeah.
Prerequisites. Yeah.
Yep.
So we're going to install IntelliJ.
Yes.
Yeah. And we're going to, you gave us the list. You say you're going to also add it on the WhatsApp group?
Yep. We will be sharing the material to you, but the video will not be available. Only for the paid users, it will be available. But rest of the PPT and the documents, right, notes, I will be sharing to you people. You can make the benefit of it. Yeah.
Okay. What about the installation of IntelliJ? Because I don't have a background in
Don't
development.
Don't worry about it. Okay, I will be providing the links to you also, so that you can just follow the guide. You can able to install it. It's a very simple clicks to make it installable. Yeah.
Thank you.
Don't worry. If you are available in the next session, I will be guide you how to install it also. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any doubts so far? Are you good with the concepts? Concept-wise, any doubts, please let me know so that we can clarify then and there. Okay, so I used to clarify the doubts then and there so that you can align with me in the subsequent classes. Okay, any doubts, any basic doubts also, I'm welcome, please. I'm here to help you people. Okay, I think you people comfortable. I'll treat it as yes from all of you. And thank you for this joining this demo class. Thanks for your interest on this demo class. Happy learning. I'll catch you in the next session. Thank you all. All the very best to you people. Bye-bye.